All right, we are live now. It is 7:01, and at the chair's request, we'll call the meeting of the January 19, 2022 Planning Commission meeting to order. We'll have a roll call with Chair Lappin,
Here.
Vice Chair Marino,
Here.
Commissioner Maskin,
Here.
Commissioner Stanton, Commissioner Thomas,
Here.
Commissioner Digan,
Here now.
Commissioner Sangetti Daniels,
Here.
and Councilmember Risberger.
Here.
All right, so the first item on today's agenda will be a nomination for the chair to serve for the 2022 calendar year.
So moved. I'll make that nomination.
You have to pick
Second.
a person to nominate.
Oh, right. I nominate the current chair, Daniel Lappin, as chair.
I'll second that.
I'll second. All right, go ahead.
Perfect. Chair Lappin, are you willing to accept the nomination?
Yes.
And do we have any further discussion?
Just that I'm honored to serve as chair end of the year, and promise I won't keep you guys locked in 3-hour meetings unless absolutely necessary.
Yeah, right.
Knowing me, it'll be 4 hours instead.
With that said, we'll call roll. Chair Lappin,
Here.
Vice Chair Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Maskin,
Yes.
Commissioner Stanton, Commissioner Digan,
Yes.
Commissioner Sangetti Daniels.
Yes.
Passes, and Chair, the meeting is yours.
Well, thank you so much. Next on the agenda is the selection of a vice chair. I'd like to open the floor for nominations.
Is Megan Marino willing to be vice chair again? If so, I would like to nominate her.
Okay. Motion made by Commissioner Thomas to nominate Commissioner Marino to serve as vice chair. Do I have a second?
Second.
Go ahead.
Seconded by Commissioner Maskin. Any discussion?
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We're happy to have you being willing to serve. Okay, hearing no further discussion, clerk to please call the roll.
Chair Lappin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Maskin,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Digan,
Yes.
Commissioner Sangetti Daniels.
Yes.
Passes.
All right, congratulations, Commissioner Marino. All right. Moving right along, clerk, do we have any correspondence tonight?
I've received no correspondence.
Thank you. Are there any petitioners here wanting to address the commission or on YouTube or anything like that? Anybody?
The only one here not attached to an application is Mr. Sisselman. I don't know if.
Yeah, this is regarding Dr. Pasenich. He was supposed to be going in front of you today regarding his illegal parking lot. I was working with Luke on it. I think, Mr. Risberger, I think you were in discussions with him about it too. At some point.
I don't believe he's on the agenda today, but this is a time where petitioners can come and discuss, make a statement on record about, a planning issue facing the community. So, Mr. Sisselman, if you want to make a statement
Yes.
tonight, the floor is yours.
I have been in contact with Luke Murphy for as part of the council to assist me with an issue with Dr. Pasenich creating a brand new driveway that basically is adjacent to the back of my property, which is not very big at all. I have a disability. My eyes are in awful pain 24/7. I have a diagnosis of trigeminal neuralgia and hemicrania continua after a few concussions, and I stopped working and I'm now officially on Social Security as a result. Dr. Pasinich did not go about this correctly. He didn't get a permit. He just did what he wanted. And he built this. So I went into you can see my house is dark. I literally live in my house in darkness. You can ask my sister, she yells at me when I'm at her house that she wants the lights on. So I addressed that with Luke. He was, I thought he said something about Mr. Risberger, him talking to you about it at some point. I was told he was to stand before the planning commission. He had zero permit. And so per the planning commission's email to Luke, he is not supposed to be parking there. It's an illegal parking space. It's not been addressed yet. So I'm in really horrible pain. I have 40% tinted glasses from my eye, and this is torturous to have to go out to my bathroom and to be blared with inappropriate light. In addition, Dr. Pasinich, I'm concerned about the safety of my property and myself. My neighbors are Sherry and Pete Barbario, and prior to their fence being installed, I believe he literally managed to damage their their garage. They then put a fence there. The percentage continually broke and did nothing about, to the point where Pete bought these big, huge concrete blocks so that they would hit the blocks instead of the fence. Lo and behold, Dr. Pasinich still finds a way to break their fence yet again. So the level of my disability is being put at 0, and Dr. Pasinich thinks he can get away with everything. The reason why I'm here tonight is because Luke told me that he was going to be here. He also lied. Luke had emailed me and let me know that that the parking lot was illegal because of it being illegally done without a permit and blah blah blah, and he could park a certain way. That was on January 5th. On January 13th, I had a lawyer as part of Disability Rights New York reach out to Dr. Pasinich, and what he told them was on January 10th, not that he was advised that he couldn't park there, but that he's changing so that the cars can be turned around so that the lights aren't glaring on me. So he basically lied to the city, in my respect. I'm afraid about my property and damage. He needs to be putting up a fence. He needs to be putting up flower beds. It's disgusting, and no one is holding him accountable at all. And in the meantime, I'm suffering when I go to the bathroom and lights, even the taillights. And yet he is allowed to completely have an illegal parking lot, and I am supposed to be okay with that and be hurting. In addition to that, I have environmental concerns because of the way he actually built it. It's no longer grass, it's actually all gravel stuff. So I'm concerned that there's going to be more water flow into my property. My basement is usually bone dry, and I do not want that. He's also a chiropractor, so he should know and be very conscious of head injuries and what was going on. He basically lied to Disability Rights New York, saying that he was doing what he is doing now and disregarded the fact that the council informed him that he may not park there because it is an illegal parking lot. He still has cars there even today.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sisselman. I appreciate you taking the time to make your statement.
And I really want you guys to know I am in pain and I literally am on one of the strongest NSAIDs, and if it wasn't for this, I wouldn't even care.
I appreciate you taking the time to speak today. It takes a lot of bravery to come forward, particularly with an issue. So thank you. We're going to open the floor to questions from the commission and council members present. Councilmember Risberger, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Sisselman, for stopping by at this meeting. But just so everyone is aware, the conversation I had with Councilmember Murphy was pretty brief. He contacted me about this just to get some advice of which direction to go with it. That was the extent of it. And I am aware of the issue. I was under the impression, though, the main problem, I mean, there was the issue about the fence. The main problem, I thought, were the lights that were put in were not to code, and we've seen photos of the lights. We've seen photos of the floodlights at night that are very, very bright. Perhaps the person to talk to speak about this more would be Stephen Yearley, if he's here. I have no other information about this other than what I've said and what Mr. Sisselman has said, because I think there's other conversations that have gone on behind the scenes that really have not included the council at this point, because there haven't been any decisions that needed to be made at the council level yet.
I beg, and I apologize if I put you on the spot, but I've been begging, and I have the emails to prove it, how many times I email with pictures of illegal parking, and 0 is done. And today I was told he was going to be held accountable.
I appreciate that. And I think we're gonna figure out a path forward here. Just so everybody is aware is that, there's ample time for public comment, but we try to minimize back and forward discussion so that we can move through our agenda. But what we will do is, Stephen, are you online right now?
Yeah.
Other Steve, Yearly, sorry. So Steve, are there any code violations related to the lighting and or orientation of the lot on that property?
There's no lighting installed. So Dave Risberger is confusing another light issue on it's actually behind a different chiropractor's business.
All right, thank you.
What happened here is Dave Kucinich expanded parking at some point. Mr. Sisselman contacted us. We contacted Dave Kucinich. The reason this would come in front of the Planning Commission is because he's exceeding the impervious coverage of the lot by expanding the parking. So our code says that the Planning Commission has to provide site plan approval for any, basically anything that exceeds 60% of the lot coverage. So by creating this parking, we believe that David Kucinich has exceeded the impervious coverage on the lot. We informed him of this. He acknowledged that he did expand the parking. Another section of the zoning code requires that any parking that's adjacent to an R2 either has to have a 5-foot vegetative barrier or a 4-foot solid fence. Neither of those things exist between the lots. There's also a mandatory 5-foot setback from the adjacent lot line. David Kucinich claims that he's 6 feet back from the lot line. He's had a survey done. That would be part of a site plan submittal. The largest part of this is he's parking there in violation of the approved site plan and also the fence. We told him that he needed to stop parking there until he had that approval. We've now got a new city prosecutor, so we can start taking this, there are 2 options that could go here. David Kucinich has said that he's filing an application for site plan approval. He's contacted an engineer to provide a statement in regard to the fill that was installed there as it relates to runoff. The issue with the fence, obviously we can't approve the parking unless the fence is installed, because without the fence, you're still in violation of the zoning code. So at this point, he's been told that he's not supposed to be parking there. That would be something I would probably discuss with council as to how they wanted to proceed if we wanted to, you know, either ticket the individual. I mean, he could apply for a zoning variance to halt, you know, enforcement action on that section of the zoning code. I mean, there's a kind of a lot of different directions it could go. But yeah, I mean, he's required to have site plan approval and install a fence before that parking is legal.
At what point does my rights having a disability become more important than his parking lot?
So, right. Yeah. I'm not arguing one side or the other. I'm just stating that at this point, the process is either get site plan approval and builds a fence, or we obviously enforce the zoning code and,
So
you know, would write a ticket and go to court.
I think what Mr. Yearly is trying to do, Mr. Sisselman, is outline a path forward, and that can be taken to ensure that Mr. Picinich fully complies with the adopted laws in the city. The site plan review process will require us as a commission to take into account impact on neighbors. We already have your statement entered into the record here, which we will use to evaluate the individual's compliance with the city of Oneonta zoning code. When that application is submitted, it will be noticed, and you'll be invited to attend again and deliver another statement, or, you know, participate in the meeting in some other way that you see fit. The other piece that I'll put out right now is that, you know, the build first, ask for permission later approach is frowned upon. It's not how we, you know, facilitate development here. It kind of, you know, obviates the presence of a zoning code. The zoning code exists to guide development in an orderly way where it doesn't impact the public unnecessarily. So I have full confidence that Steve Yearly will follow the appropriate channels and that the council will act appropriately in that capacity.
Is there something in the meantime that can be done? Does someone have tarps, anything that they can do to stop it? Because this is pain. And so I'm begging. I've been doing this for over a month, and I was told today was going to be it. And I'm hurting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And
I mean, I'm
not
happy.
fun.
So we recently we got a new city prosecutor, and this kind of came up in the middle of us transitioning from one city prosecutor to another. I mean, I'm happy to contact the city prosecutor tomorrow and ask him for basically advice as to how we would want to move forward with this.
I was told that I couldn't, there was no legal way that he could help. That was my response.
So we always have the ability. I mean, the way the code works is that someone who's showing that they're actively attempting to comply with the code, you know, if we write a ticket today, like let's say I were to ticket someone today, that ticket might not actually go to court for a month or 2 months. Or so what I'm telling you is I can contact the city prosecutor, and if he thinks that it behooves the city to issue some sort of, you know, basically a ticket or a violation notice, I can do that. It's just I have to discuss with him how he wants to take it forward, because he would be the one taking it to court.
I totally understand that, and I'm just so at this point.
So what I guess I can tell you is I have told him not to park in that spot. So
right, but he's disregarding it, and I'm sorry, I'm talking over you. So in the meantime, the only way for me to remedy it for myself would be for me to buy a fence and get it installed.
I think before doing that is to trust that the city legal system, proceeds accordingly, and that's kind of all we can tell you that's going to be done. I think right now, I realize that you're in pain. I think the city will do everything in its power to assist you, and like I said, the city takes violations perceived or an actual violations of the zoning code very seriously.
So is there a way that somebody can go and block off legally where he cannot park? He will not listen. He doesn't care.
I don't believe
He's
so,
suffering.
but I believe that if the city prosecutor deems it appropriate, they can take legal action, and that should compel the individual to act accordingly. So I think right now we're going to, if there's any other petitioners, we'll give them the floor, and if not, we'll continue with our meeting. I just asked Mr. Sisselman that you continue to follow up with Steve yearly, and that Steve, I'm sure Steve and the council will work to keep things rolling. And you already seem to have a good rapport with Luke Murphy or Councilmember Murphy, and you'll be able to make sure that he is kept apprised of any and all developments related to this project. So let's keep.
Is there-
we're
Okay,
gonna-
I'm sorry.
we're gonna
Quick
keep moving
question.
on.
Is there anything, because of a disability, do you guys have anything that I can use as a resource to be able to do something so that I'm not blinded and hurting?
I think you have, I'm not sure, it's not really the role of the planning commission to make recommendations about what the city should and shouldn't do. But I trust that by working with your council member, Luke Murphy, and with the mayor's office, you'll be able to achieve a solution. But for right now, we have folks here who are waiting to have their applications heard.
I'm
And so
sorry.
we'll keep, no, I appreciate you, sharing your situation. And like I said, it does take a lot of bravery to speak in front of the commission. We appreciate it. And we'll try to do our best to remedy your situation. But for right now, we're going to keep moving on. So next on the agenda, we have old business. I have Mr. Vandersamen who's present. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. I believe you're here to talk about a subdivision application you have in front of us.
Yes, I am. You didn't pronounce my name wrong. You did a good job.
Thank you.
I have a property, it's called the Oneonta Tennis Club. It's about 8 acres in the city of Oneonta. And as Becky knows, or Miss Thomas, I'm sorry, knows that we are trying to sell it, or I am trying to sell it. We is my wife and I, for 3 years now, and we seems not to have enough interest, and we, maybe price is too high or anything else. However, we have gotten some interest in parts of the property. And I don't know if people are familiar with the tennis club, but I'm willing to share a picture of the facility.
Yeah, by all means. I think today, the purpose of today was to see the preliminary layout of the property and of the proposed subdivision.
Okay, so share screen, right? This is the facility I'm talking about. Does everybody see it?
Yep.
The red little building to the side is not the little building, that's the indoor tennis facility. Then there is the house, the green roof just attached to the tennis club is a house. To the left is the swimming pool with, a tent and everything else. Then deeper down are the 2 outdoor clay courts with the lights. And then there's a pond and there's a pump house. And then beyond there is 4.5 acres of vacant land. As one property, we've been trying to sell it and we have not had any luck. So I kind of went to the code enforcer and I said, I would like to split up into 4 different, parcels. One is the indoor tennis facility. Number 2, wait a minute, let me give you another. Can you guys see this? Are you there?
We're looking at the same thing. Hasn't
Need to
changed.
do a new share.
New share. Oh. All right, hold on. All right, new share. Like this. Can you see it now?
There you go. You're good to go. We can see it.
Looks like he's frozen.
I don't know how to move it. Your internet connection is unstable. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, and we can see the 4 parcels outlined.
Okay. how do I get rid of the pictures of you guys so you can show?
But we can see it.
We can, yeah, we can see it. The pictures are just of the participants are on your screen. But if you want to, there's like a little dash mark on the top left of the participant window, and you can click that to hide the thumbnails. So
Okay.
hide all our pictures.
Hide thumbnails. Hmm. Okay, well, I didn't see the thumb, I'm sorry. So I'm proposing is that we sell parcel 1, which is the Oneonta Tennis Club indoor facility. Parcel 2 is a house with on 3/4 of an acre with entrance from 32 Rose Avenue or Rose Avenue. And parcel 3 is the outdoor facility, which is the outdoor clay courts, the swimming pool, and a parking area, also coming in from Rose Avenue. And then the 4th parcel is the land in the back where we have 3 access points, 2 from Sand Street and 1 from Hudson Street. So that's what I put in front of the code enforcer, and they said, well, you have to go in front of the planning board. So I've talked to the city engineer and everything else. We probably have to install new water lines for the different properties. We also have to put in new sewer lines for the properties. Electricity is already there. We don't have to do that except for parcel 4. So I don't know what's the next thing to do.
The next thing, so I guess the overall intention of subdividing the property of Mr. Van der Summen is to basically make the property easier to sell. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then
There's nothing more that I want to do is sell the whole property. But, if that's not going to happen, and some people are interested in the house, some people are interested already in the outdoor facility. We did have some offers, not good enough, but we did. So we just wonder, maybe we don't have to do anything. Maybe we get lucky and have somebody show up and buy the whole facility. But if that's not the case and somebody says, no, I want the house, what do I have to do?
so I guess in the first step is that, you've shown us this proposed subdivisions and you've kind of broadly discussed your plans. I guess we open the floor up for commissioners to ask questions, and then I believe we have to do you have to comply with the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act and with any decision that requires a judgment call or an approval, we have to comply with appropriate environmental regulations, and then we can act on the I think we have one more meeting before we can act on the subdivision application. Is that correct, Steve?
Yeah, I think this was put in as a sketch plan conference for him to describe his proposal. There's sections of the city code about subdivision that include a requirement to seek approval from the Board of Public Service. There's a whole list of kind of, I'm not going to call them weird, but seemingly our subdivision ordinance is written for like major subdivisions, which this is really is not. So the code actually says you guys can kind of frame the approval or denial following the laws or following the process that you feel best represents the application. I don't have the section of code in front of me, but I can send it to the group. So really, the intent of this meeting was for the applicant to come, describe what he wants to do, which he's done, you guys to review his application, and then theoretically at the next meeting, give a final approval. Because I think it's actually on the agenda as a sketch plan conference.
Yeah, so I was asking because the subdivision application, the link's not active on our website.
Right. So we don't actually, there is no subdivision application.
Oh, I see. Okay.
it doesn't require, I mean, there's really no, the city of Oneonta code doesn't really have a subdivision process. It has an ordinance, but there's no like, this is a subdivision application. The larger part of the process is that the code says you cannot get a subdivision in Oneonta or a lot line adjustment without approval from the planning commission.
Oh, I see.
So that's kind of why Paul's here. So
Oh,
basically,
okay.
I was putting this on the agenda as a sketch plan conference so you guys could review the application, identify any issues with the application, and then, you know, we would kind of like frame out how we wanted to go from there.
Oh,
Like,
okay. So I have the code in front of me, and it's you. So you basically, the city engineer and the Board of Public Service shall have to approve the application and then advise us within 45 days that it is approved. After the preliminary layout is approved, well, we can note our approval as conditional approval.
right.
So,
But then there's an entire section that says, or you can just kind of ignore all that and just do whatever you want. Because there's like a, like somewhere in that like pile of subdivision ordinance, there's like a, kind of like a, did you follow the spirit of the law versus the written part of the law? And I can't remember the section, but that's kind of why it's here, because of the subdivision process, kind of like what we did with like lots on deeds. You know, there was one parcel, they weren't building more roads, they weren't installing infrastructure, they weren't doing the stuff that is kind of described in our code as being required by a subdivision. So this one's kind of different because it is several parcels, and they are, you know, they might require like a sewer, like Paul was saying, like sewer, water, access points. Like it's kind of one of those where you, you know, but it sounds like Paul's already discussed with the city engineer what his proposal is.
okay. So I
Yes,
think
I have.
So I think that I think what we could do is, I think one thing we could do is if the Board of Public Service, we'd have to refer the application back to the Board of Public Service for their approval. But in order to do that, in order for anyone to do approval, before any discretionary actions taken, we have to comply with seeker, right? First. So I think, why don't we, before we get into the approval process, we should see if any commissioners have any questions about the subdivision application. So are there any questions about it?
I do have a question, just more of a clarification for myself. So Paul, would your intention to be separating them no matter what, or are you just looking for a backup plan in case you can't find a buyer for the full lot?
Correct. Basically, it all, you know, like I said, we already had some people interested in the house. We had some people interested in the outdoor facility, and we had some people interested in the indoor facility, but they don't want the house, they don't want the outdoor facility, or they want the land. So, you know, I'm basically, you know, I would love to, like I said, sell it all. But if nothing happens, then I got to start dividing it. And I don't know if it's legal or not, and that's why I'm here. But, you know, I would like to have that happen and see what happens.
I have a couple questions, Chair, if that's okay.
Sure.
The floor is yours. Go ahead, Shane.
So I'm looking at the county GIS mapper, and I noticed there's looks like 4 existing parcels on this lot.
3.
2 are owned by you, and looks like 2 or 1's owned by you, and 2 are owned by your wife. So 3 of them, 3 parcels.
3 parcels, yes.
3, right?
Yeah, 3 parcels,
Okay.
yes.
So this whole process would be not just subdividing like one existing parcel, but it would be basically changing the entire.
Right. I got to get it surveyed and everything else. I already got the one that the map I got that made it into 2 parcels is already surveyed and everything else. I was going to go to the county and have it changed. And my attorney says, why? Why do anything until you have a buyer?
Right.
Because you might have to do it again and then spend twice the amount of money.
Okay.
So
That was just
are
kind of
correct.
yeah. And then the other two things I just off the bat that sort of hit me is one, and I don't know how much you want to go into this, Chair. You can just cut me off if you want. But the one of the subdivision lines looks like separates the house from the tennis building, and they're adjoining buildings. So that would be a
Right.
non-conforming. You know, there's no setback between those two. So I don't. I guess that's more maybe a question for Stephen, and I'm going to just keep going, and then so I use less time, and then you can answer both of them. But that's kind of my one concern is putting that line basically through a building. And my second concern is that with access to the road,
charger is plugged in.
with access to the road, there is so there's access to Rose Ave. It's pretty obvious. It's facing Rose Ave. But the one to Hudson and the one to Sand, at least on the county mapper, doesn't look like there's any access. So it would have to be deeded from another owner. And then Hudson Street, there is a small parcel that's owned by the city of Oneonta. And I wonder if he needs any sort of separate city approval to put a driveway on the Oneonta parcel. It's possible the county mapper's wrong too. I don't know, but that's what I'm using. So I'll stop talking, and then if Stephen or Paul, if you want to talk about that.
I'll give you that end.
Well, from Sand Street, there are two access roads that, yes, it's the right of way that you can take for one. The other one, I think, belonged to Helen Dawson, and that's the property we bought. So I think that's one access. I don't think we should get a right of way or something for. It's still on the map, the road that was on there. And actually the city was plowing it until the house was gone. But it's not city property. But they always plowed it for the lady, Helen Dawson, which was very nice.
You're talking about MCU Place.
Yes, that's it, exactly.
So I see one as one parcel that's just outside the access road from McHugh Place appears to be, based on the county mapper, appears to be landlocked. And I think what would be helpful is I have the other piece of our the subdivision regulations that discuss, where there are practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship, the planning commission can vary or modify the application of requirements, so that the spirit of the regulation shall be observed. It's also
300-79.
Yeah, it's also extremely helpful that there are no guidelines outlining how we make that determination, which I guess we can just come up with on our own, but I would prefer to do that in writing with clear standards outlining our decision so that future applicants can see what needs to go into that. So I think what would be helpful, the subdivision application, the subdivision, I know we have a clear idea of what Mr. Van der Salmen intends to do with the property, what his intentions are as far as selling it. I think what would be helpful is for us to see kind of, get a copy of the, proposed, the preliminary plat, if you will, to see, that contains the proposed subdivision lines at next month's meeting. And then in the meantime, we can refer that to the Board of Public Service for review. And then next month, we can act on it and complete a seeker review. I believe it looks to be like a type 2 action. So
But before he goes and gets approval on this, and I just want to clarify that it seems unlikely that we would approve a subdivision going through a building. I mean, I just want to kind of clarify that. I mean,
Yeah,
I have exceptions and things, but
that's one of the problems with you'd be creating a non-conforming structure, a non-conforming parcel. And that's kind of why I put this in as a sketch plan conference, because I think looking at this, you've got some kind of, because Paul, I'm on my phone, but isn't there something where isn't part of that in a commercial, or is that all in an R2? Do you remember, or an R? Because
No, it's all commercial. It's what is the most highest industrial zone, whatever zone it is.
It's a
CU1.
Is it CI? So if it's all in a CI, there are minimal setbacks there, so you might actually be able to
Right.
subdivide it. I don't know if that then creates like maybe some weird, like, I don't know what the fire separations are, but I guess that's kind of outside the zoning. But I mean, yeah, so
Well-
like those are the kind of things I guess you guys have to think about when you look at this application.
Yeah. I think what I was trying to get at wasn't, I certainly didn't mean to imply, that we'd approve, but or anything. I just said by taking action, I think it'd be, outlining what our thought process is on the subdivision application itself right now, because we have no hard copy materials in front of us outlining kind of the property layout. And it's kind of hard for us as a collective body to, see everything, for example, so I think what I would like to do is, maybe I'll rephrase it, is for next month for us to see a preliminary plat and then determine an appropriate course of action to take in order to act on the application. And by acting on the application, it means, if we feel like we'd be creating a non-conforming lot, or there's other issues, we can address those issues as they come up. But I think without, materials in front of us kind of outlining kind of the application, it's kind of difficult to kind of have the full picture in our mind. What do people, what do the other commissioners think?
Steve?
Yep.
Steve, do you have the map still that I gave? I actually took a picture of and I showed that. You still have those maps, and can you?
Yeah, I do. They're at City Hall.
Okay, is there any way you can?
I honestly, I thought they had been put into the application.
Okay. All right, so, okay. So who do I talk to?
What?
Okay, can you put them into the application, or do I have to do that?
If it's the map that you dropped off,
Right.
I honestly thought it was in the application. So I thought that the commissioners had it.
Oh, yeah. I'm on the Web Planning Commission website right now, and there's no link for the subdivision application on there. The only active link is the CEO memo that I have.
I don't have a digital copy of that map.
Okay, let me I'll have to get it from Marianne, because it's one of the big ones, so it has to be scanned in on the big scanner. So I'll have to see what happened. Yeah, there is a preliminary map that was submitted. We just don't have a way to scan them unless we use the engineering scanner.
Oh,
so,
I see.
So I thought that had been scanned in and like provided digitally, but yeah, that's
Dan,
yeah.
or Chair,
Sure.
can we take seeker action? I mean, we're probably going to wait to see the map, I suppose, officially at the next one. But is there any way we can start just start the seeker process right now, or did you want?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could start, the seeker process. I think that it is the property is in the CI zone, and there's no clear buyer yet. But so taking into account the long term, the nature of the site, and its respective zone. I think subdividing the property into 4 parcels, I'm comfortable with that. I think that it would. I'd have to pull up the seeker code here.
Can you refresh me on the seeker, whatever?
Sure. So any at a very basic, the super high level explanation is that any action, like any land use decision that, or any, discretionary decision that a city makes or a town or a village in New York State makes, whether it be the approval of a subdivision, the approval of a site plan, adoption of a new plan, they have to comply with the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, which requires the deciding body to basically figure out if there's any significant adverse environmental impacts that will result as kind of as a that result from the discretionary decision that the commission or the council or whoever the lead agency is makes. So this basically done to make sure that the environment is protected, and so in order for us to move forward, we have to basically first determine if this is an action that is likely, less likely, or unlikely to cause a significant adverse environmental impact. And so that's kind of what we're doing right now. If an action is anticipated to have a significant impact or is deemed to be likely to cause a significant impact, there's a lot more kind of analysis that has to go into that. If it's something simple, like a subdivision application or simple lot split, then that's kind of generally deemed not to have a significant environmental impact, and there's no further review that needs to be necessary. So we're in kind of that putting things in a box stage right now. So we're trying to classify that piece, if that makes sense.
It looks like this is going to be unlisted. Just looking around, looking at the example actions, but could be wrong.
Yeah, I think. Let's see. Let me take a look. Ministerial nature. Okay. Traffic control, temporary. Visual set outline. Okay. Yes, Commissioner Dagan, I believe you're correct. So I think it would be an unlisted action.
Yeah, lot line adjustments are type 2, but it looks like subdivision is just as an unlisted. That's what I'm.
And I don't believe. So I think for unlisted actions, we will need a short environmental assessment form to be filled out to determine the significance of such actions. To prepare an environmental assessment form is really easy. There's a tool on the DEC, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation website called the EAF Mapper. And you can type in your address into the EAF Mapper, and it will basically prepare an EAF for you.
So what I'll do is I'll contact Paul and I'll work with him to submit that short form.
Yeah, because I think that it's in the case of an unlisted action, it's not going to be something that will exceed any of the type 1 thresholds that I can see. So I don't believe that we'll need a long form EAF. I think the short will be fine. And so if you could just, like you said, I think it'd be great if you could work with him to get that filled out. And then that along with the preliminary plat will be reviewed at February's meeting.
And we are exempt from the county review because it's less than 10, just so we have that on the record.
Okay, so we wouldn't have to refer that for 239 then.
Right, less than 10, less than 10 parcels. Yeah.
Okay.
So is my understanding right now is code enforcement officer is going to work with the applicant to prepare a EAF part 1 and present that along with a full application for our next meeting.
The short, yeah, short
Short, yeah, the
form.
short EAF part 1.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
short form. It'll take 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I don't think I think we have a clear path forward. I don't believe we need to vote on that. Does the commissioners agree about that course of action for Mr. Van der Samen?
Fine.
Mr. Van der Samen, is that agreeable for you?
Yes, whatever, got to do it via, the law, so I have no problem. I just got one more thing to say about connecting buildings. Is it a whole downtown Main Street owned by different people and connected?
Yeah, so Paul, that's kind of what I was saying. If it's in a CI zone where there's no setbacks, then that's not really an issue. I just couldn't remember because I thought that part of that was in R2 where there was some discrepancy.
No.
Yeah, so
When
as long as the entire parcel is in the CI zone, you basically don't have any setbacks. So then you wouldn't be subject to that. But if part of it or if one of the parcels was in an R2, then you would start creating like, non-conforming structures and setback lines. But if that's not the case, then it shouldn't be an issue.
I think that I think probably what would probably be helpful, I think it would just take like a second, is that in addition to the preliminary plat, if we could just get like a map of the zoning, the zoning districts in the city, or I guess with in relation to his parcel. I think that would be good. I mean, I could probably pull it up.
Yeah, so I was just sort of thinking out loud. It's a concern I had, but it looks like
Yeah,
that's
I think it's fair. I think one of the things about how, if we had the preliminary plat in front of us and with the zoning map, we could see that. And if it was everything was in the CI zone, it'd be fine and we could take appropriate action. I think it's good. It's kind of why we have a collective body on the commission, is we all come up with different things and outline a good path forward.
Well, I think the only reason I was thinking about the R situation was I think, and I'm trying to remember this from like 5 years ago, but I think that we actually had that particular parcel misclassified. Like, didn't you have a short-term rental there or something? Or you tried to get a short-term rental? Yeah. And we actually, the database that we use to manage properties in the city had that particular parcel classified as R2, but the rest of it, like the database didn't match the map. And I think that's why I'm remembering it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why we ended up sorting it out, and you got a short-term rental permit, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So I think that's kind of why I was like triggering in my brain.
okay. So are we good to go?
Yeah, I think we have all the other commissioners agree. Are we all good?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Hey, no problem. Steve, please contact me when with anything. You got my phone number, you got my address?
Yeah. So what I'll do, Paul, is do you have my email, or do I have a current email for you?
I think I have something.
Okay. So
I have an email for him, Steve.
Okay. So what I'll do is I will email you tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Let me rephrase that. Probably tomorrow sometime after 11.
Okay.
And we'll do the short form real quick. I can call you and we can just do it via email.
Okay. All right. You gotta let me know.
Yep.
Because I'm working. That's hard to believe, but I am.
Okay.
Something. So
yeah. So we'll work it out. We can do it
Yeah.
anytime you want. I'll just contact you tomorrow morning.
Okay, that's great. On my cell phone.
Yep. Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night, Paul.
Good night.
Thank you. Okay, so next on the agenda, we have Gamma Phi Delta. I don't believe, is anybody present from Gamma Phi Delta. I don't believe there is somebody representing this sorority here today. So I guess this is I think it's the fourth or fifth meeting that haven't been present at. We've held the application over multiple times. So I guess the question is, do we act on the application in their absence? I've never in my careers on the planning commission, and as a planner, I've never had dealt with an application where just nobody showed up for multiple meetings.
Well, when's the special use permit for 2022? That's in April, right?
So
we do them every year for all the houses.
Yeah. So what we did this year is a little different than what we've done in the past. We sent them all the packet information as soon as they got back to school. So they have until May to finalize and apply for their special use permits, but they've had all that information since pretty much the day they walk back on campus.
In September.
So the cutoff date is May. Obviously with this group, I mean, this is literally for last year's special use permit. So they're way over.
Steve,
go ahead,
Steve. What happens if we deny the permit? Then what?
They would have to put in an application. They'd have to put in a new application.
Maybe the denial would be the right kind of message.
How does that affect them though? I mean, they're obviously operating as a sorority right now. So what does that effect do if we were to deny it right now?
They would have to put in a new application. They have to put together a brand new. We require more from the new applicants than we do from the existing groups. The interesting thing with this is I think that with the new zoning ordinance, they might actually be in a zone where theoretically you could operate a Greek organization. So this would kind of be an interesting, change of events a little bit. So that's a good question.
I think that. So they'd be in the MU1 zone then?
Yeah, I believe that sorority house is now, with the new zoning update, would be in the MU1 zone. So
they may be in that case. Then we'd have to evaluate that the new zoning code. I guess they're compliant with the new code, but in theory they could be allowed, to operate as of right then, and instead of going through the SUP process.
Right. So we when we redid the Greek organization zoning chapter, we adjusted it so that organizations like this would fall into like an administrative review by like the code office. So we would be reviewing them based on the criteria in the code, but not necessarily through like the special use permit process.
Okay. That almost kind of makes sense. So I think that, with any denial, we'd have to have grounds for, denying the, I guess would we be able to act if an applicant wasn't present based on
can you deny because someone doesn't appear? I don't know.
Councilman Risper, you have a question?
Yeah, since technically their special use permit ended last May, and since then it's not just that they've operated illegally as a sorority, but they have a house that is overoccupied. So since we didn't pass the MU1 zoning code till just recently, I mean, at this point, isn't it just technically an overoccupied home that's also operating as an illegal sorority, as far as we know, that happens to be in the MU1 district?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They would fall into the category of a new organization. They would have to file a brand new application, or they would have to seek a zoning variance. But
Well, I mean,
because
couldn't we, I mean, if we want to get their attention, I mean, couldn't we go after them for being an overoccupied home?
we theoretically could. That'd be something we'd want to talk to like Dave or the city prosecutor about. I mean, I think you'd have an interesting case where, because this has historically been a sorority and it's historically operated in that way, I think it might be difficult to challenge. I mean, I think it would be it'd be an interesting argument that failure to get I mean, it'd be like a ticket. You know, I think that'd be the closest we would get, is like a failure to get a special use permit.
Well, I think what they have learned that they don't need to do anything at this point.
I think the issue is they we could probably, I think in terms of like a grounds to deny, just basically looking at our previous reviews, is that usually there's kind of aspect of impact on the community, and the ability to ask them about how they, what their impact on the community has been, receive testimony to that effect, and ask them questions about their compliance with the provisions of the special use permit. And since they're not, we've given them 4 meetings and they haven't answered the questions that we have, I think that we could, I think it'd be fair to deny on the grounds, possibly deny on the grounds that the applicant was unwilling to answer questions about their special use permit application. They didn't provide the necessary background information that every other Greek organization in the city does when it's time to review their special use permit applications, and that we would encourage that, we would reject this application and encourage them to submit a brand new application in May. And we've, extended multiple invitations to ask questions about their application.
I have to ask, just to clarify, we do know for sure that they received notice about these meetings?
That was my next question.
So the current meeting status shows that notice was left because no one was there to accept the letter. In addition, though, however, even though we do set them up to receive a certified letter, we send one by regular mail as well, to ensure that it can be delivered without somebody signing for it. In addition to that, we sent them an email letting them know that it would be on the January agenda. There's a legal notice in the paper. Yeah.
I mean, and it's also, there is the issue that we've been having them on the agenda every month, and every meeting is essentially a publicly noticed meeting. And they've continued not to come. And I believe we did hear from them in December. They said that that was too far or something, like they didn't want to come.
Geographically, they indicated that the travel would be difficult for their closest responding House member. So they were advised that it would be appearing in January, and they were very thankful for that.
And then here we are in January, nobody's here.
I mean, it's obviously unfortunate to deny someone, but at some point we have to not set precedent that you can just keep coasting through.
Well,
I mean, can you give them a warning? And let's say, we've waited this long, really what's one more month? And just basically say, if you're not here at the February meeting, then we will go ahead and issue a denial. That way, they know we're taking it to the next level.
I think, yeah, I think, that's also a possibility. I think that,
Danny, I wouldn't agree to that unless I know exactly what the next level is, because I feel like we've been moving the line with this group, and I don't know, it doesn't seem clear to me when they've crossed the line, like what's actually going to happen.
Well, I think, I think your point's well taken, Councilman Risberger. So I'm looking, I was trying to wrap kind of my brain around the objection or issue I have with the application, and kind of in looking at the city code that I have it is specifically under section 300-29, section E, general standards governing special uses. I don't believe in their application that they've provided any statements in writing that demonstrates how they comply with provisions 1 through 8, which essentially pertain to like how their property affects the community. And so if we're looking for specific grounds, just on the nature of the application, they fail to provide adequate materials demonstrating, their lack of an impact on community character and how their house fits in with community character, how, how, or just in general, how they comply with the provisions of, the criteria under that section. So for
Hold on.
example,
So go ahead. Sorry.
sure. So for example, in order under 329-2, in order to grant any special use, the planning commission shall find that the request is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the chapter, taking into account the location, size, use, nature, and intensity of the operations involved or conducted in connection with it, and to the size and respect to the streets giving access thereto. There's like a community section number 3 has to do with community character and general health, safety, and welfare of the community. I mean, we could generally, in using our judgment and discretion, we could probably make a case that it could comply with that, but their application, they don't contain any sort of, material that demonstrates compliance with this. That's all. We'd be basically doing it for them. We're acting on conjecture and how, based on how we interpret the application. It wouldn't actually be in the records, is kind of what I'm saying.
I'm just, there has to be a way where we don't need to do that. I mean, I'm just trying to read the code right now. Like, there has to be a way if you just don't show up, that's grounds enough. I just feel like we should be able to do. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. I don't want to get into something like that where it's a little less defensible, I think, because they could argue. I mean, I read their application. They did talk about community involvement and how they keep their house looking nice and this and that. And it would be nice if we could keep this clean.
There's an entire section of the code specific to Greek organizations that says failure to either to apply or to be issued a special use permit is a violation of the code. So even if you don't issue them an SUP, even if this were to be held over, we're well beyond May 31st of 2021, and they have failed to receive a special use permit.
So yeah,
so there's a violation of the zoning ordinance. I mean, even if you guys tabled this, I mean, it's theoretically still a code violation. I mean, we could at the direction of the city's legal
well, we I think we could also say like they fail to attend they failed to attend public hearing related to the special use permit application. So that's a criteria for us to basically not act on it. If we wanted to sit on it, we could just say they never appeared for their public hearing to present their application. We can also revoke their special use permit. But then in order to do that, we would notify them that we were going to revoke their special use permit, and then we'd have to have another public hearing before we officially act on it, if I'm interpreting the special use permit criteria correctly.
Wait, Danny, are you at this point they have no existing special use permit, correct?
I don't believe. I think they have. They have to reapply. So like basically expired.
Yeah, there's nothing to pull here. This is at this point it's an overoccupied house and an illegally. I mean, we're assuming it's an illegally active sorority in a house. So I think the question here is not so much, I think it's pretty simple to me to deny the SUP since they haven't shown interest in coming in front of this board. The question then is, what are we going to do about it?
So I
What can
think
be done about it?
I think if I read the special use permit criteria, going back to that, I just want to see under 29. So there's criteria for us to deny or like make a decision or approve. And so
Wait a minute though, because he had a good point, and what Stephen just says that.
let me, if I can you can
Sure.
I just finish my thought
Yep,
really quick?
of course.
So I think they have to, in order for us to determine, that it is in general harmony with the community, we probably also have to assume that it complies with the City of Oneonta zoning code. Right. So what I'm saying is that could we, deny the special use permit on the grounds that the application, that the applicant has failed to comply with the city zoning code. Therefore, we find that it's not in, consistent or in harmony with the general community. They basically it's in non-compliance. The reason that it's in non-compliance is because under section 334 fraternity, sorority, and membership association houses, they're required to have an operating permit, which they don't have.
If you look under the section for denial of an SUP, it references if it's a public nuisance per chapter 184. So it meets the definition of a public nuisance found in chapter 184 of the City of Oneonta Municipal Code. That is a building, an accessory building. It lists a whole, kind of collection of stuff that is in violation or an active violation of the City of Oneonta zoning code. So, I mean, there's a denial standard right there.
Okay.
Yeah. Wait a minute though. Can I just before we go down this rabbit hole, I just want to clarify something, is that we have to take positive action on a special use permit every year. We have not taken positive action on this one. So therefore they don't have a permit to operate, which is what Councilman Risberger was saying, right? So why do we even need to be I guess I'm just confused why we're even talking about this, because we just do nothing, right?
Exactly.
And they don't
We are
have
overthinking this.
and then why can't we they're already in non-compliance. I'm just a little confused, but maybe.
Sure. So that's like the other way. I mean, if we wanted to, so I guess that's the easier option then.
Nothing.
I think that's one possibility is to do nothing. And then
the only thing I think could be problematic about that is the Planning Commission indicated that they would table and or hold over the application. So I don't know how that impacts that. Like if the Planning Commission tables or, tells the applicant that they're extending the timeline, I don't know what that.
I think the concern that I have on doing nothing is that we're basically setting a precedent where we're not rewarding non-compliance, but we're not acting on non-compliance either. And that they've, what's to stop others from doing the same thing and just like not showing up? As I guess, we'd be deferring, there's an application in front of us now, and if we table indefinitely, they won't have one, and they'll have to go eventually run into the May deadline where they have to reapply anyway.
But we are the City of Oneonta. I mean, we as the Planning Commission, we set. But as long as the city acts, I guess they're not going to say, oh, the Planning Commission's now doing. I mean, it's as a Planning Commission. I think that's a valid point with the tabling issue. But still, that being said, we are tabling a new application. I mean, like someone proposes to build a driveway, we table the approval. Doesn't matter how long we table it, it's still not approved. And you could, if they build the driveway, you could take enforcement action because it's not approved. So exactly. I guess we could table this and it's still a live application. If they want to come back, they could come back to us every month. But until they do, they're in violation already.
Right. So, and in the meantime, I think what has to happen is this goes back to the code office in the city to take action on the group acting illegally and over occupying a home. And that may be enough to get them in front of this board.
Okay. That makes sense. But I think as long as we, as a commission, we take some action, I don't believe, I think that if we take the action where we table the application, but we recommend that the code office submit, a letter out, informing the applicant that they're not in compliance with the city of Oneonta zoning code and listing the reasons why, and outlining a remedy, which would be to come before the planning commission to receive approval no later than this date. No later than next month. I think that would be, I'd be okay with that. I think that tabling and doing nothing, I wouldn't be okay with, but the proposed action from Commissioner Daigen and Councilmember Risberger is I'm agreeable to that.
Could I just alter that recommend? My preference would be to almost the same thing, to table it and then recommend to the code enforcement officer that the city of Oneonta fully, pursue all legal action to stop this illegal use. I wouldn't put it as give them a warning I would just say, pursue all legal action, or pursue all action.
Okay.
They've had enough warning at this point.
But
Okay.
this was my recommendation. I mean.
Yeah, so I think of all appropriate legal action, the city will be taking legal action to pursue, something along those
Carrie
lines.
has it.
Carrie's got a question, Danny.
Oh, sure. Carrie, go ahead.
I do, not that I get an opinion in this, but I'd like to ask that if you do table the application, that you table it to the specific meeting date in February, because every time they don't show up, that's another legal notice and another round of neighbor mailings and another set of certified letters to get them to appear.
And it costs money. I think I appreciate that point, and I think that's something that should be made clear in the letter to them. That at every time that they don't, every failure to show up is, cost the city money. So yeah, I think that would be good. I think that stressing stressing their non-compliance with the code is important. And as long as we make that case clear to them and inform that they're no longer in compliance with the code, and we'll table the application to the February meeting. Is that agreeable? Did I capture everything correctly?
Yeah, can we restate that just so in the minutes?
Sure. So for the record, the Gamma Phi Delta special use permit application will be tabled until the February Planning Commission meeting. The applicant will be notified in writing that they are not in compliance with the city of Oneonta zoning code, that they currently are not operating as a Greek organization, but they're in the city's view, but they're operating as a overoccupied home, and that the city will take all appropriate enforcement action to make sure to compel compliance with the zoning code. Is that correct? Did I capture the spirit of what Councilmember Risberger and Commissioner Daigen were trying to say?
It seems to be, yeah.
Councilmember Risberger?
What I think is going to happen is we're just sending another letter to this group that they're just going to ignore, or they don't see, or whatever. I mean, we've been tabling at every meeting since May. I mean, do we have something that officially says we will table their application from month to month? Did we promise that?
Well, I mean, we're essentially doing them by tabling their application. We're doing them a courtesy and giving them the opportunity to come back without submitting a whole brand new application. I think that's kind of how I understand it.
This application is a new application because they failed to appear previously and they were forced to reapply.
So in this case, so we had tabled it, we tabled it before, they reapplied, and then they're essentially not showing up again. So then I guess I think that if we tabled it again, it would just be kind of tabling it indefinitely.
What happens if we don't table it and all we do is tell the code enforcement, we recommend that the code enforcement officer takes all enforcement action?
That's what I think should be happening right now.
We don't necessarily deny it. We just don't. It's not tabled. I mean, I don't know if you can do that. You could just not take any action.
I think we could probably, I guess we could have a vote where we take no action on the application, per se, but then we also, I think it's not the planning commission. I guess we, also will, I don't think we can declare that an application is in violation of the zoning code, but we can say we find that it is. It is the planning commission's position that the application's in violation of the city zoning code, and we request that the code enforcement officer take all appropriate enforcement action that his office deems necessary. Okay. I would say, we've kind of, arrived at a resolution for this one.
I mean, does anyone else
We need a
disagree
vote?
with what I've been saying? I feel like I've took up all the oxygen, maybe, but is there a different opinion? I don't know.
I mean, I'm agreeable, just for the record, I'm agreeable with your position, Commissioner Digan. My personal preference would be to deny the application. Simply because they're, fail to demonstrate, they're essentially operating as a public nuisance by being in violation of the city zoning code. And that would give us ground to deny and inform that they're denied. But I think that's just my position personally.
I had a question.
Sure.
Do we know that if they're occupying the residence? Like, are they living there currently?
From what I've seen and other council members have seen in the past, in this last fall, they are occupying the house.
Okay.
Yeah, we know they're living there.
Okay.
Yeah, they're living there.
So I think that, there's two paths. I think that, Commissioner Digan, if you want to make a motion to your effect, I'll open up the floor for a motion for next steps.
Okay, sure. I move simply that we recommend to the code enforcement officer that we believe this property is in violation of the Oneonta zoning code. And we ask that he take all enforcement actions necessary to remedy that violation.
Okay, so there's a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Maskin. Is there any further discussion?
So just to be clear, we're not denying, we're just asking Stephen or code enforcement rather, to.
Well, Carrie, is there a problem with this one?
It's not really a problem. I just will at some point, be it a second motion or a continuation of this one, there needs to be some sort of action taken with the application.
Sure.
It's tabled, it stands,
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
And if we have to take action, I mean, I know I don't have a vote on this, but I would be in favor of a denial on the application at this point. I mean, if we have it right in in the statement on the city website, persons making a request are required to attend the meeting for consideration of their application. And I mean, this has been going on since May.
So I guess, okay, so.
I would like to amend my motion. To say what I said, and we will deny the application.
Do you want to add on what grounds?
On the grounds that there was no appearance to present. That's not a good sentence, but.
I think we can, on the, can say like on the grounds that they failed to appear as required by city law. And
yes.
There you go.
Yeah, and then we could, and based on the fact that they're currently in violation of the city code.
Does that, Carrie, do you have that down? Okay.
And then, do you want to make, redo your second, Commissioner Maskin?
Sure.
Okay,
I'll
so I have a motion on a second. A motion and a second on the original motion so I guess we'll just get rid of that first motion and keep the amended one. Any further discussion? Clerk, could you please call roll?
Chair Lappin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Maskin,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Dygan,
Yes.
Commissioner Sangetti Daniels.
Yes.
Passes.
Motion passes. Thank you. So, so I guess we're done with that. We do have one final piece of new business. Mr. Paul Agoglia, thank you for your patience. We appreciate your time. We believe we have a simple lot split. If you want to get let us know what your proposal is, and we can go from there. I believe you're on mute.
Okay, how's that?
We can hear you now.
Okay, so did you guys have a chance to see the map?
Yes, it's been in, it was in our packet and it's on the website.
Okay, so so we own two bordering properties, two Thorn and 2A, and basically we felt that we'd like to improve the lots by moving some land from one of them to the other. What we'd be doing is making space for off-street parking. There's more of a backyard and a gazebo there that would go to Thorn, along with rights to drive across the driveway of 2A to get to the parking area. Pretty much everything else stays the same. The road is I think it stated in a letter. Road frontage is identical. The structures are existing, and the lot sizes meet the zoning requirements. Trying to think of what else. When I bought 2 Thorn Street, which was back in the mid 80s, I did an addition to that house, and apparently I got closer than I thought I was going to get to my neighbor's property. So if you look at that map, you can see that part of I guess is the garage and the room above it, kind of border onto the 2A property anyway. So one way to clear, basically to clear that up while we own both properties is to shift some of that property over. So it kind of takes care of that as well.
It kind of makes things cleaner.
Yeah. And we don't know down the road if, our son's going to inherit it, or if we're going to sell one and live in the other, or if we're going to sell them both. But we want to kind of set it up so it's easier to do stuff.
And then you had mentioned that the lot complies, the proposed split complies with all the setback requirements and everything like that, correct?
Yeah, and according to our surveyor, everything is, in order in that respect.
The map is really clean and easy to read. I always appreciate having an inset in there to look at. Do any of the other commissioners have a question about the application?
That road access is going to be deeded in the.
Sorry?
The road access for 2A is going to be, is that included in the parcel? Is that going to be deeded with the 2 property?
So road access to 2A is with 2A, and then 2 Thorn will have, I forgot what you call it, rights to drive across to get to the parking area.
Okay. I moved that we approve this lot line adjustment.
So it looks like in the inset it says that there is an easement area or a hatched area subject to easement as far as.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, so before we move to approve the lot line adjustment, we have to comply with seeker first. So I guess according to Steve's Yearly's memo, the application in front of us is a type 2 action under section 617.5, subpart C 16, which has to do with the granting of individual setback and lot line variances and adjustments. So do I have a motion to classify the action as a type 2 action under seeker?
So moved.
It's motion made by Commissioner Maskin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by, was that Commissioner Thomas?
Yeah.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Thomas. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please call roll.
Chair Lappin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Maskin,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Dygan,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanjetti Daniels.
Yes.
So just for your edification, Mr. Guglia, by classifying this as a type 2 action, we find that the lot line adjustment will not have an impact on the environment. So that's kind of what it means. And that
Oh, okay.
no further environmental review is necessary.
Okay, great.
And so now we can move to act on the lot line adjustment application as presented. Do I have a motion to approve the lot line application as presented?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Dygan. Do I have a second?
A second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Marino. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, could you please call roll?
Chair Lappin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Maskin,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Dygan,
Yes.
Commissioner Sangetti Daniels.
Yes.
Pass.
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate your time, Mr. Goglia, and thank you again for your patience. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you for your time and work. And I'm assuming I just need to see Steve for a signature at some point.
I think, so I need to come in and sign the final.
Yeah, you have to sign it, Danny.
Okay, I'll come in. I'm in Oneonta on Friday, so I can come in and sign it then.
So meet at City Hall or?
I think I would just need to come in and sign the final plat myself. I don't think you need to be there.
So do I need to drop it off? I'll just drop it off with
Yeah, just drop it off at the code office.
okay, and
Yeah.
that's the one on vellum paper?
Yep.
Okay, I'll drop it off there tomorrow.
And then I'll come in Friday, first thing Friday morning and sign it.
Okay, thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate your time.
Same here.
Okay, so next we have, I guess, is there any other new business that commissioners want to bring to the commission? I appreciate everybody's time and dedication. Commissioner Sangetti Daniels, welcome. It was it looked like a simple agenda. It ended up being a very important, complex discussion, but it was great. It was nice to see so many folks passionate about planning and having a good discussion. I love it. Anyway, I guess I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Maskin, seconded by Commissioner Thomas. All those in favor say aye.
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 Adjourned. Thank you, everyone.